Jake.
I'm Tom.
And this is my little brother Coleman Jackson, here today to help us review an album he requested for our 156th episode at Velocities in Music, where today the album Coleman requested was Keane's 2006, their second album from Keane, the Brit rock band, Under the Iron Sea. Keane is a band that came out in 2004 or 5.
So yeah, somewhere around there.
And with their first album, Hopes and Fears, very Coldplay. Yeah. I mean, just like almost to the point that people were like saying, hey, they're ripping Coldplay off. And I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't say that they were blatantly ripping them off. Now this album, I would say that it's getting a little ridiculous between British acts of Muse, Coldplay, U2, and Elton John. It's just they're oversighting their references here. This album is extremely
it's very derivative.
Very derivative, yeah. Very Brit pop. It's all focused around the vocalist, who I don't know his name. I don't think we know his name, but
I did.
He has just this almost too perfect of a voice, and I think that that's the most. They definitely cater to that, and I think that that's where most of the fans of Keane are really going at.
And to tell you the truth, that's my criticism too, and it's a crappy criticism to have. Really,
it's shitty.
But I can't get over it. The thing is, these days, what I at least am looking for is something unique in a vocalist. I don't like that just American Idol, cookie cutter, pretty schoolboy choir voice. I like something that's got something that makes it a little more human, that'll make it stick out a little more. And this guy, he's got a very pretty voice.
He's more dancer than human.
Yeah. Oh God. No Killers references. Putting the kibosh on that. But to tell you the truth, that's like I listen to the instrumentals, and if I single out the instrumentals, I think if there was someone on here that was doing something a little more inspired, a little more unique, I would like it better. Because I just feel like the vocals are kind of lowest common denominator.
Right.
They're kind of, you know, they fit, they sit on top of everything, and some of the songs are very catchy. Tracks 2 and 3, those were the two big singles, Is It Any Wonder and Nothing in My Way. And they're good songs. They get stuck in your head. But I feel like there's something that they could have brought a little more edge to it with. But really, the thing about this, I was having a conversation. I won't get off on too much of a tangent here, I promise. I was having a conversation with my older brother, Pat. He was with us for our Menomina episode and for something else.
Sounds of the Universe.
And, yeah. So if you want to hear more from him, check those episodes out. But he was saying to me, he was having a conversation with someone, he said, what makes good music? And he said, emotion. And you know, you can't narrow it down to one thing, but that's a very good point. If you sing with emotion, you make it convincing, then that's a key. Here, I don't think he makes it very convincing, and that didn't really hit me until track 6, Hamburg Song, where it just, I didn't feel like he really believed what he was selling, you know? Like it sounds a little business-like and not as artistic, so it's like, why should I care about what he's singing about if I feel like he doesn't really care? So that kind of gets to me a little bit. At the same time, it's still pretty well written, you know? So that's about all I got. What do you...
So Coleman, what do you think about Under the Iron Sea?
Well, I liked the album. I just thought it was a little front-heavy, and it does sound a lot like U2 and Muse, and I actually... That was the first thing I thought about the album.
You probably liked that.
Yeah.
He's a good fan.
Yeah. But, yeah, after A Bad Dream, to me, the album just sort of starts to blend together, and you don't really listen to the songs. They're kind of unoriginal, I think, after A Bad Dream. And that's, yeah.
I totally agree with that, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, to me, besides the vocals, the production, that's something I'm becoming more and more sensitive to.
Yeah.
I'm blaming you. But it's just so centered on the vocals, you know?
Yeah.
Do you like the vocalist?
I do. I think he's, like, I agree with Tom. He kind of sounds American Idol-ish.
Yeah,
right.
He
a little too perfect,
yes,
almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pretty boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, there's some validity to that, but you got it's too one-dimensional, I think.
Right.
With the exception of the opening track, Atlantic.
I really like that one.
Really like that track. But other than this, Keane and their 3 albums, they actually have another album that came out in 2008, and I've heard a couple tracks off that. And man, it just seems to me that Keane is one of those bands that just wants to do whatever's hip at the time, whatever's whatever's the fad at the time. They're gonna kind of do the Keane take on that, and I don't like that because I think this band does have talent, and it's just that they're unwilling to use it.
Right.
So. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, it's almost like they're too scared to just go out on a limb and take a risk and something that will really define them. They'd rather just kind of, you know, write the music that they feel will work.
Right.
And you know, for that reason, it's not bad. It's not terrible, but it's just not, it hasn't reached the potential that it could, I feel like.
Yeah, and one thing, to comment on your point, Coleman, is that I noticed that the piano parts were more centered on the first half, where there's not quite as much defining piano, which is part of Keane's whole thing, is that it's piano, vocals, some guitars, and drums.
Right.
And I just don't feel like there was enough of that if you're going to really define and be something new and original.
Right.
But would you recommend it?
I actually would recommend this album because if you like decent music, but you're kind of in the mood for something soft, like a good background music, this is a great album.
That's a good point.
I think that's a very solid point. I want to mention one more thing that I just remembered pissed me off that I talked to you about. Okay, the song "Put It Behind You," pretty decent song. Last half is just this weird kind of ambient thing that I thought sounded really cool. I was like, wow, this is really cool. They're doing something different here. And then it goes from that into Crystal Ball, which is possibly the poppiest song on this album. Doesn't really do anything special at all. And I'm just like, why do they have that build? It sounds like it's going to build, and then they totally blue balls you with this just like pop song. And so it makes me wonder why they put that in there. Because it's like they're saying, hey, we just wanted to show you we can do this atmospheric type thing. But then it just makes me even more mad because it's like, yeah, you proved to me that you can do it, but it's like, oh, we can do this, but we're not gonna. We're just gonna tease you. We're just gonna tease you. And then they don't do anything. Ah! Sorry.
Great analogy with the blue balls, man. That kind of fits this band.
Total atmospheric build-up cock tease.
And
that's what it is.
I would say that a more conditioned music listener, I mean, and I know that we've talked about this, Coleman, a more conditioned music listener will like this at first, and then it will wear thin very quickly, because it's just not very deep. It's not very, this is kind of shallow. It's not there's not the layers of depth that In Rainbows had, you know, or something like that.
These are two guys who love In Rainbows right here.
Man. I'm gonna go ahead and pick a couple tracks.
Yeah.
I already said I love the first track, Atlantic. I also did like track 5, A Bad Dream.
Oh yeah.
Tom and Coleman.
I'm totally gonna steal those two from you. Those I think those are clearly the standouts.
Coleman, do you like any of the others?
I didn't mind the Frog Prince just because of the very end. It kind of had a music box type of feel to it at the very end of the song. So I kind of enjoyed it. It was a little bit original. I thought it was a decent way to end the album.
And that's one of the more original songs on the back half. So and it works well as a closer too.
I'll roll with that.
Yeah. Overall though, I'm struggling. I have liked this album less and less with each listen, which is a problem. And I'd love to see this band actually come out with a solid album. I just don't think that this one's it. So Under the Iron Sea, I mean, it's under kind of where I want to be. And I'm just going to go straight 59 on this. What do you think, Tom?
I'll go even 60.
Even 60? Mm-hmm. All right. I just want more out of Keane. Yeah. What do you think?
Like an actual rating?
Well, if you want to rate it. Otherwise, you can just say, you know, do you think it's good or bad in comparison to the rest of the music that's out there?
I think it's a decent album. Not very original, like you said. And pretty much to wrap it up, it is a kind of a ripoff of U2 and Muse. Yeah. So it's decent.
So
for a few listens to.
Yeah.
So our viewers out there, tell us what you think. Do you like the whole vocal centeredness of Keane and how they float on the fads, or do you think that there's something deeper going on that we're just not picking up on? Tell us what and why at www.velocitiesmusic.com. We'd love to hear from you. Other than that, that was Keane's Under the Iron Sea. Thanks, Coleman, for the request and showing up on our episode. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
This is Coleman, my little brother. We are Velocities in Music, moving music critique forward.